So here we are. Valentine's Day is ahead of us, or maybe it's behind us. Whenever it is, we have a lot to talk about, to work through when it comes to Valentine's Day and our understanding of love and what it means to be a soulmate, to have a soulmate. What is soulmate love? Welcome back to the Nine Lives podcast. I'm Baruch Levy, also known as B, and here with Rebecca Rosen.
So great to be here. Can't wait to talk about soulmates. This is something clients come to me all the time, curious to understand. So
Soulmate love. Well, maybe we get into what it is or maybe what it isn't.
Yeah, I would love to start by just saying that I think there's a big misconception that this fantasy idea of soulmate is only pertains to romantic love. And, for those who have followed me, I talk about soul contracts and our soulmates, fellow soul travelers that journey with us in and out of lifetimes, part of our soul family and soul contracts. A soulmate doesn't have to be romantic. It can be platonic. You're one of my soulmates. Dad was one of my soulmates, okay? Yes, there are romantic soulmates as well, okay? But it's really recognizing that whether it's romantic or not, there is karma that you came together. You're in this lifetime, in relationship to work through, heal, and balance karma, which is unfinished business from a previous lifetime, okay? Sometimes it's you're creating new karma. You're coming into this lifetime to come together to, create new opportunities, lessons that you're going to work through to learn and grow. Okay.
Yes. And your favorite movie of all time, Jerry Maguire.
Jerry Maguire. The worst quote ever is "You complete me." Why? Because nobody completes you. Nobody's your source. God is your source. The divine being, the I am presence within us is our source, right? So the whole idea here is to be whole and complete on your own, wholehearted. You complete you by owning the divinity with you and then finding the equal who embodies that same wholeness, right? So it's 1 + 1, which equals 11, right? Yeah. Not half and half.
And Ariel and I just did a podcast on this topic as well. We focused on the Adam and Eve story, and it's not that Adam has a soulmate. The Hebrew is ezer, somebody who nurtures, and kenegdo, somebody who challenges. And I think that our society has gotten one half of the equation. The Hallmark aisle portrays, or I call it the Nicholas Sparks version of soulmates, which is, or the Jerry Maguire, you complete me, you nurture me, you therefore are my soulmate, versus no, you actually challenge me, you make me grow or help me to grow, as you're talking about, and that it isn't a one size fits all. Where we are in life, who we meet in life, that presents to us the opportunity of soulmates.
Correct. Our soulmates can be our greatest polishing stones. And that through contrast in this 3D world, we need that challenge, that contrast, because when you know what you don't want, you get clear on what you do want. And that's where the growth comes from. Not to confuse things, but there is a concept known as twin flames. And a twin flame is truly it's the same soul divided in two. And twin flames are really challenging, okay? Even though it's a deep passion and love, way beyond a soulmate, it's also deep, challenge. I mean, these can be some of the hardest relationships, the love, hate, but that is part of that yin-yang energy to find that balance. And so there's a whole other level of that.
And I get this question, as those of you watching are probably aware, Rebecca and I created 9 Lives, the spirit of the Enneagram, where this picture behind me, or if you're not watching, you're listening, a picture of the Enneagram is a circle with 9 fundamental energies, or soul contracts as we like to think about them. But I get asked all the time, like, what's my perfect number for, not for me, but for my partner, for my soulmate? And that's no different than saying that there is one size fits all. There's one soulmate for you. That's not true. These are 9 patterns and energies and pathways. And again, different times, different people for different reasons enter our lives and we enter their life.
Exactly. We come together with the people who mirror back to us the work we still have to do, the lessons we still need to learn. You know, it's like with astrology and horoscope signs and who's compatible and who's not. This is the same thing. And so at this point in my journey, I'm with my husband because we have very similar childhood wounds and lessons and work that we're working on. And so he's the perfect person for me and me for him to be doing that. Whereas in my first marriage, it was a different set of lessons. And they're wired very differently. And so one's not better or worse, it's just different. It just is. And so it's really looking at it through a lens of neutrality and not judgment, good, bad, right, or wrong.
And
right?
to your language from your most recent book, you have so many books I can never remember. What's it called?
What's Your Heaven? What's Your Heaven?
Think of it like school, right? There's no one course of study. There's no one class. You got to do all these things to graduate.
Right.
And if you just take math all day, every day, you're going to be, like a geek. You're going to have some well-rounded by taking some art and vice versa. Yeah. And so each person who enters our life is like a particular classroom.
That's right. And so it's really just asking your higher self, asking spirit, okay, what is this here to teach me? Not why is this happening to me, or why does he frustrate me, or she, this or that. It's instead saying, okay, why is this here, and what is it here to teach me?
And a teacher of mine, her name is Edith Eger. She's a Holocaust survivor and a logotherapist. I'm a logotherapist. Anyway, she talks about the difference between being a victim and a survivor. And she said this coming out of the Holocaust, is a victim says, why me? And we're all victims at times. We all do this. And a survivor says, now what?
Yes.
And as opposed to saying, why me? Is this soulmate in my life? And why can't I have another one? Say, now what? Now what do I do that they're here? Because our dad didn't always do that. In many ways, he ran away from his classroom, completing suicide, leaving this world, as opposed to saying, okay, it's not what I wanted. It's not the classroom I would have thought I would have designed for myself, but it's obviously the one I got, so it's the one I need. Right. Now what?
Exactly. How do I grow and evolve as a spiritual being having this human experience, right? That's the question.
Right.
And that takes us out of victim into this very empowered state. And when we do that, that's where divine intervention comes in. That's where our little limited ego self kind of steps aside and makes space for our higher self and our team and spirit to step in and give us grace. And when we have that grace, we can understand the why, right? And we're shown the how. And I always say, just say, show me next steps. You don't need to know A to Z. You just need to know A to B and then B to C. Okay, spirit. Okay, higher self. Show me how to navigate my way in this relationship or with this challenge in a meaningful way so that I learn my soul's lesson and that the highest good for both involved or all involved comes about. That's how you clear, heal, and balance karma. Because at the end of the day, that's why we're here, right? So that we can move forward with grace, ease, joy, enjoy each other, enjoy our relationship, and not constant pain, suffering, and struggle.
Totally.
Or what a lot of people do is they just run away. So they either divorce or they keep, and then but wherever you go, there you are. The universe will bring back another relationship or situation if you haven't learned the lessons and healed and balanced the karma. And so maybe, though, you are supposed to end, break up, or divorce, but never do it until you've done your work. And once you've done your work, then maybe you decide to part ways, and that's okay. Because then you'll move on to a new set of lessons that are hopefully easier, and you won't have to repeat the same lesson or pattern again and again.
And so the work that you do, the work that we do together now with the Enneagram is helping people graduate from school so that you can, maybe you want to go on for a master's degree, or maybe you say, hey, that's not for me. I want to go this route, but you're not running from, you're moving towards.
Right.
And so where I do love the Enneagram, and I think you've come to love it too, is that it offers us some very practical hows. I think of it in some ways now as we're talking it through as, well, if I have to take math, what's the curriculum in that math class? If I have to take art, what's the curriculum in that? And so the Enneagram presents 9 fundamental classes, if you will, or potential manuals for that particular soulmate that has now entered your life. Because very few people are experts at math and art and music and PE and all these things. And so we need, I won't say cheat sheets, but we need a roadmap for how to navigate.
Well, yes. And we need to first know thyself. You have to know your Enneagram dominant type. So that you then know how to communicate to your partner what you need. I've been working on this in my relationship. And one of my things, and I think a lot of people out there can relate to this, especially those who have a 2, which I have a lot of 2 in me, even though I'm a 9. How do I hold my center? How do I hold my boundaries so I don't lose myself in my partner? Because I'm a people pleaser and I'm a giver, caregiver. So how do I know myself so well, my shadows and my strengths, my light, so that I can then be responsible. That's on me to communicate that to my partner. And then, right? And so that partner needs to know their self. So it's really great if when you're in a relationship, if you both take the Enneagram typing test, and then you did this for me in my relationship years ago, right? And you're like, here's what you need to feel seen and heard and safe. And here's what he needs. And it's like a love language.
Yeah. You could see from the other person's perspective, which is intimacy, to see and to be seen. And that's how you get to true intimacy. And again, not in just eros, erotic sexual partners, but in all your relationships. And so you have this quick reference. And by the way, we offer the assessment in our program, 9 Lives. And so you figure out yourself, and then you begin to figure out your soulmate, that particular soulmate. And then you don't have to complete each other. You help each other complete themselves.
Exactly. And it's about doing the work individually, and then you can do it together as a couple. It's a very powerful roadmap and tool. I refer back to my husband's chart all the time when I'm trying to figure out how do I communicate this in a way that he will fully receive it. And every time I go back to his Enneagram, the book you did, and I do it, it works. It's magic. And so it's just another tool.
So let's, in the time we have, we're not going to be here all day. Let's maybe just go around the 9 and talk about what do they need to be seen. If it's your type, what do you need so that you can feel seen? And if it's their type, what do they need to be seen? Because really, again, intimacy and soulmates, and this gives you a way to understand from their vantage point, not just you looking at them or you assuming that they're like you.
Right. Yeah.
So let's start with 9.
Okay.
There's no wrong way to start, but oftentimes I like to start 9 because it's at the top. So if you see behind me, the peacemaker, we call the unity seeker, right? So what is it? Well, this is your core, go-to strategy. And as I always say, it's not who you are. You're not a number. You're a divine spirit. I call it the defiant spirit. But this is where you go when you're both reacting and when you're responding, your high side and your low side. So maybe what is a 9 grappling with?
Well, 9, for me, for any peacemaker, is all about we avoid confrontation. We want harmony, unity, peace. I mean, this truly is the heavenly realm. When I talk about the 5D energies, this is a 9. Okay, so my comfort zone is living in harmony, grace, ease, the opposite of the 3D earth realm, which is why we tend to dissociate and we go away, because it doesn't feel safe, because there is duality and contrast, but that is where our real growth opportunity is. And so, that's the shadow side, is when we try and dissociate, avoid conflict, or we swallow our truth. We don't have the courage to speak up and out and feel safe to be seen and heard. So it's really coming back to finding the courage to communicate your heart's truth, your needs, your desires, in a way that you feel the other person will then be able to, you give them an opportunity, but that's our responsibility.
And I'll play the other side of being in relationship, because you've been one of my soulmates for, I won't say how many years, but a long time. And I can tell you from my vantage point, and also my daughter's a 9, and I just have so many wonderful 9s in my life. And as an 8, and we'll get there, it's not organic or natural to me to do this, but I've had to learn to bring down the intensity when entering into your realm, in your space. Because as an empath, or as somebody who's sensitive to their circumstances, especially the conflict stuff, you become the turtle, right?
Yes.
Pull into the shell, retreat, retract, go away. And so you don't go head to head. It doesn't mean you don't challenge. I know you want and need, as we all do, challenge. It's how I go about it.
Right.
And one of my daughters is an 8, and I just go head to head with her, and she's like, yeah, she feels that. One of my daughters is a 9, go head to head, she disappears forever.
That's right. And I'm also, astrology wise, I'm a Cancer sign, and I go into my crab shell.
Mm-hmm.
So it's figuring out their, again, love language, and how do I communicate in a way that won't feel threatening, but it feels safe, so that they will open, and some productive conversation and connection can happen.
And be willing to challenge the 9, because the 9 is oftentimes told they're the easy boy, the easy girl. And that's a mixed bag, right? Because just because you're easy doesn't mean you're always resilient or strong or getting your needs met, like you said. And so helping them find their voice and exercise that voice, making room, space for them to have that voice.
That's right.
So that's the 9. Enneagram 1, moving around, the reformer traditionally, but we call it the integrity seeker. Maybe I'll take this side of it, and you can talk about being in relationship with the 1. So Enneagram 1, we need to feel seen. We need structure. We need predictability. Us and the 5s, we don't like surprises per se. We are conservative with a small c, not politically, but I see this with a lot of 1s. You got to move in slowly before you hug them, right? They have their space, their boundaries. It's very important that they have those protected. Also, honesty and integrity. That's what we call it. The integrity seeker is so important for a 1. If 9s are the easy boys and easy girls, 1s are the good boys and the good girls. Mm-hmm. And so really understanding they have an inner critic that chastises them all day long that they're not good. And so being very mindful not to get into that critique and critiquing them.
Yeah, and really with the 1s, it's being, a lot of times we can be judgmental if we're a 1, and we go into this place of judgment. And that's, again, that really duality of right, wrong, good, bad. Judgment is self, but also judgment of others. Yeah. And what I have found with 1s is that they go into this perfectionist state. Like if things aren't a perfect way, or a way that they think or judge or perceive, in their opinion, it should be, right? That's hard to be in relationship with.
And it's all or nothing.
Yeah. And so what I've learned from Spirit, it's never black or white. It's shades of gray. And
Mom is the one who drilled that into our head. Shades of gray. Because she was married to a 1.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's hard to be in relationship with a 1 when it has to be their way or the highway. And so forgiveness is another piece. Huge. 1 needs to be able to forgive themselves, because if they don't, it's like it's drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. No, it's only toxic for yourself.
As they say, love is forgiving, love is forgiving.
Yes.
And so you give it. And really for 1s, it's opening their hands and letting go of control and just giving grace, giving love, and giving that to them. And so if your soulmate is a 1, just going above and beyond, even if they don't deserve it, or if they're the one who initiated the challenge, just to give them grace, because they have so much critic, enough for all of us combined. So Enneagram 2, the intimacy seeker, the helper traditionally. You want to start with that one, since you have a lot of 2 in you?
Yeah, I have a lot of 2, and I think a lot of my clients have a lot of 2.
And 9.
And 9, of course we do. Like attracts like. But this is all about the caregiver archetype, and it's about sometimes the people pleaser and putting other people's needs before your own, because you have such a big heart. And in a healthy state, you are here truly to be of service to others, to lift them up, to nurture them. And so, but the key here is all about the balance of giving and receiving. Because sometimes I notice I give and give and give, but then I'm resentful, I'm not receiving, but I haven't made space to allow my partner to give. Or I don't feel comfortable, it's not safe because I might feel rejected or abandoned.
Or a big one is because a 2 has spent so much of her time giving, she's never actually thought about her needs.
Yeah.
Oftentimes 2s don't even know. If you ask them what they need, they're like, I don't know. Like, this is a question I've never had time. I have a spouse, I have children, I have responsibilities. My needs, I don't know.
And that's the self-forgetting and self-betrayal that happens.
And so being in relationship with somebody who's a 2, since I have a mother's a 2 and you have a lot of 2, and a lot of my clients are 2s, is to help, first of all, not to use them. It's very easy to use a 2 because they encourage it. Grandma Flo, our grandmother, was a 2. And she just encouraged being used, right, to do the dishes and to be the giver and all that. And I remember on her birthday, it was her 95th birthday or something like that, she was doing the dishes on her 95th birthday, which on the one hand is beautiful. And everybody says, oh, that's so amazing. So we're reinforcing that. But maybe we should have been saying, that's not so amazing. Sit down and have your cake.
Right. Feel loved, cherished, and adored, and allow yourself to receive that gift.
Right.
So that is, I think, spotting it and then asserting or insisting in a loving but direct way, because we need the balance to be balanced spiritual humans.
And we need you 2s to receive the gifts that we have, because otherwise it's not a sustainable or reciprocal energy exchange.
Right.
And it becomes lopsided. So if you are a 2, thinking of receiving as an act of giving. You're giving love by taking this present, by receiving whatever it is your partner or whomever wants to give to you, and that's an act of love.
And one more thing, that's also giving your partner the gift of giving, because that's their soul contract.
And that's their
You're
soul.
giving them the opportunity to do their work. So you receiving is the greatest gift you can give them.
And saying no as a 2 is an act of love.
Yes.
I'll leave you with that. We have a lot about that in our ebook for the 9 Lives program. Okay, Enneagram 3, the achiever, the manifestation
seeker.
Tell us about them.
So this is all about, like, these are the movers and shakers, and in a relationship, this can be a very powerful force to be with a 3 when they're healthy and they're in that creative genius, creator, achiever. They set their mind to something and then they make it happen. And you can feel very taken care of when you're in a relationship with a 3.
They're the coach, they're the coordinator, all these things.
They make stuff happen. And like they walk their talk. But the unhealthy side is, they can get into their ego and it becomes all about them and, them and how it makes them look, okay, for the wrong reasons, right? The ego, you go into competition or comparison or greed or kind of the lower self-motivations, which are not pure. And you can feel that sometimes when you're with somebody who's an unhealthy 3.
And if you're in relationship, and that's your soulmate, as the 3 is your soulmate, really not feeding that drug of choice, because we live in a society that just reinforces, oh, you look so pretty, you did such a good job, right? You are such a winner. In 1,000 ways we say it, and we just reinforce more and more that you are worthy because of what you do, not because of who you are.
That's huge. It's not the materialistic, right? Or the portfolio, or it's the light within you. So it's really about just being in relationship with the 3 and creating from that place of light and not shadow.
And when you go out into the world as a 3, not attracting to you people who reinforce that, but having the courage to be around people for the right reasons. Maybe they don't look how you thought they should look, or they don't have the bank account or the cars or all that stuff, but really looking at your curriculum as simplifying, as getting humble and getting real. So Enneagram 4, the
authenticity seeker,
known as the individualist traditionally, or sometimes the romantic.
For a 4, it's all about being real, keeping it real. It's like I always say, do you, be you. The universe will bring it, him, her to you, right? So this is really about just being secure enough in who you are and not, 4 sometimes can feel inferior or less than. They need to be special. You know, that's the unhealthy side. But if you're authentically you, you don't have to do anything. You're vibrating at this energy where people will see your light and see you, and then you can be in an authentic relationship.
Yeah, that's the 2 and the 4 are the Jerry Maguire, you complete me, both of them for different ways, but 4s have to stand guard against looking for somebody to complete them. Do you remember the Shel Silverstein book, The Missing Piece?
Yes.
It's like that partial circle looking for that perfect fit to complete it. And there's always a missing piece for a 4. It's always, and it's not just a person, right? They have to stand guard against making anything into their completion. Can be something constructive, like a new form of therapy, or a book, or a guru, or a lover. And there's just nothing outside of him or her that will ever bring that. It's like, it's an inside job.
With 4s, I always say begin within, okay? But not from your head, from your heart. Because your truest self, your intuitive guidance, your truth, it's in your heart, not in your head. And the head sometimes with 4s can create that downward spiral of negative thinking or depression where they lose themselves.
And being in relationship with the 4 as your soulmate, I can speak firsthand to this one. It's about seeing them and acknowledging. And if you think you've given to them sort of that validation or that emotion, give some more. Give it freely, because they just, they feel deeply, and they're very incredibly sensitive. Never telling your 4, trust me, that you're too much, right? This is too much, because they live their life feeling like too much. Like 1s feel too much criticism, 4s feel too much desire to connect. And so really never weaponizing that and seeing them. Enneagram 5, the investigator.
Enlightenment seeker. So this is all about when you balance intellect and intuition, okay? Because a 5, their predominant strength or superpower is their brilliant mind, their knowledge, right? But I always say the 1-2 punch, or Spirit says, is when you can balance intellect and intuition. So it's head and heart coherence. Okay, not just being heady. And so to be in a relationship, you need both, because otherwise it's just a platonic relationship. You need to be intimate in your heart.
I always get, when I haven't worked with that many 5s, but I work with their partners, and what they say about their soulmate who's a 5 is, I need more heart, because, and it's not that 5s are cold. It's that they forget that living in their head isn't living in real time in the world. And so they think about saying, I love you. They think about the gifts. It's not that they don't. It's just that translating it into reality, taking action, and getting out of your head, and not only into your heart, but into buying the flowers. Does it make sense? No, because you know what? This actually is hurting the environment, because you're growing these things, you're cutting them down. Does it even make sense? No, they live for 8 days. I could take that money and actually invest it in a long-term retirement fund as an act of love. There goes Valentine's Day.
Right. And so, like, on paper, it doesn't add up to a 5. So that's when you throw the paper out the window.
Exactly.
And you say, but for some reason, I just feel this would speak volumes to my partner. So that's the balance of intellect. Doesn't make sense on paper, but your feelings, follow your feelings. That's your guidance. And meet them halfway, meet in the middle.
And if your soulmate is a 5, don't surprise them. Don't go above and beyond. They're minimalists. They're conservative like the 1s. So, no surprise, Valentine's Day. And really approaching them from their vantage point, where less is more. And not asking them to have this unbelievable Valentine's Day experience. They need time to process and think it through.
Well, and maybe instead you meet them where they're at and you have a deep, meaningful, insightful conversation where you can elevate each other's consciousness.
Yep.
Because in the end, that's what a 5's gift is. They can expand and elevate consciousness, because that's their gift.
And buy your presents for them on February 15th when the sales are on, and tell them, and they will think that's the most loving thing you've ever done. Enneagram 6, the loyalist.
The faith seeker. So this is all about let your faith be bigger than your fear. This is about staying in the frequency of light and love, and not letting the normal tendency of anxiety and fear and all the frenetic energy on the planet take you over. So being in a relationship, it's like reassuring, like talking about things that make a 6 feel safe and secure. And like, again, that like everything's kind of in a neat, tidy package. And that loyalty is huge. Like reflecting, mirroring back to a 6, like, you're going to be as loyal to them as they are to you on all levels.
Absolutely. Loyalty is the deal breaker for 6s. They are the most loyal type. And so, usually they don't get it reciprocated because we can't do it like it's their superpower, but certainly trying, going above and beyond to show that, to demonstrate that. Now, if you are a 6, knowing that, your soulmate is loyal, maybe it isn't by your standards, but maybe your standards, like all of us and our superpower, is a little too much. And so we start getting into, as 6s, I see this, we start getting into projection, and then you start playing out worst case scenarios. Maybe they're cheating on, and then you start building and reinforcing it, and you create some self-fulfilling prophecies as 6s. So backing off that impossible standard, because we're not you.
Well, and overthinking. So they go into a downward spiral, like you said. Then they create the self-fulfilling prophecy because the law of attraction. So I think if you're in relationship with a 6, it would be amazing to just keep reinforcing through words, through actions, your love for them. They are enough, your loyalty and commitment, right?
And not getting annoyed with it. So when a client calls me, I now have the Enneagram, so I know if they ask me 50,000 questions about what I do and how I charge and all this, if I know they're 6, and instead of like getting annoyed by it, what they're doing is they're trying to feel safe.
Yes.
And they're testing me for sincerity or loyalty or consistency, which to them is their currency of trust and security. And so now I just really embrace that. So if you're in a relationship with that 6, don't be annoyed by it. They're scared. And when I can see the little boy or the little girl who's just asking 1,000 questions to feel safe, that really opens my heart to them.
Yeah, it reassures them. I love it.
Enneagram 7, 2 more before we wrap up, and everybody's,
Actually, one more.
7,
Oh, yeah.
8.
Yeah.
So everybody's party favorite, the Enneagram 7. You're married to a 7.
I'm married to a 7. I have a lot of girlfriends who are 7s. The spirited seeker. This is the joy seeker, the adventurous, the life of the party. Who doesn't want to be around that? They're fun. They're easy. They're like sunshiny energy. They make you feel good. But being married to one, his mantra right now is be here now, because he's had a very negative pattern of avoiding, escaping, running away, not dealing, and that will come back to haunt you. And so it's all about, you want to uplift and shift the energy around you, but you have to be, I call it responsible choice. You have to make responsible choices, grounded choices. 7s seem to be big thinkers, which is great, but you have to ground that in reality. And then you have to be able, in that sense, to then be present. And then in that, there's authenticity in the light and the joy and the life of the party energy you bring. You hold the power to elevate in your relationship and all those around you.
Yeah, that's why they're called the planners, because it's not the responsibly planning. It's like you're at Valentine's Day dinner with your 7, and they're already planning spring break trips at dinner while they're not present in the moment. And so it's to bring it back from those future plans, to be present. And it's also not, first we're going to go to a Valentine's Day dinner, then we're going to a Valentine's Day party, and then we're going to go get Valentine's Day erotica, and then have the most amazing night of our life. And it's like, and so bringing it back, keeping it simple, keeping it real. We don't need to have the wow all the time. In fact, the partners of 7s often say, I don't want wow, I want now.
Exactly. And that is so good. But it's also about 7s get fragmented. And when they're fragmented, they're not really fully there. So when you're with them, you feel lonely, or you feel like, because they're off thinking about the next thing, they're not present. And so you feel a disconnect.
Because you're not enough.
Yes.
Right?
It comes down to you're not
It
enough.
feels like you're not enough
Yes.
when it's not you. It's the 7
But
has to bring it back.
Exactly. And it's usually
Because nothing,
they feel not enough.
yeah, because nothing in the moment is enough. They leave the moment. And so,
Right.
but if you're with a 7 and that's your soulmate, right, just really appreciating that they are like water flowing down a mountain, right? They just need to sort of keep moving. So it doesn't mean you have to enable that, but it does recognize that they do like the fun stuff. They do like to keep it light. I wouldn't send a 7 to a heavy, dark movie on any time of the year, but especially Valentine's Day.
That's right.
So it's an inside story there. But the bottom line is just appreciate and recognize that I think of them, as I said in our program, they're solar energy. They don't like when the clouds come out. So yeah, have a cloudy conversation, but probably not on Valentine's Day night.
Good advice.
Enneagram 8, last and maybe least, the 8s, the challenger. I'm a challenger. The truth seeker in our 9 lives system. I'll speak on, as an 8. We come from a place of intensity. It's, think of it as that big scary plug behind your washing machine where you don't know if you should plug this thing in. It's got those big prongs, and if you plug anything else in there, it's going to fry it. Everybody's scared of that outlet. We need that. We are that outlet. We need juice to feel. We move through the world just looking for vitality and things to kind of shake us up. And we like the truth. We like the big macro. Get into trouble when we want it too big, too intense, or we're too truthful.
And I think it's amazing to be in a relationship with an 8 because, like, when you have truth, you know where you stand. Mm-hmm. And that's the gateway to a healthy relationship. But, sometimes what I've noticed with 8s is it's like this self-righteousness where it's like their way is the way or their truth is the truth with a capital T. And I always say many paths, one truth. Mm-hmm. You can have your own truth, but in the end, it comes back to the truth with a capital T. And so, it's just figuring out that healthy balance. But it's also surrendering my will to thy will. Mm-hmm. So it's like when we started this, it's like, sometimes the 8 is so intense with their passion, power, and purpose that they interfere or get in the way when it's, again, it's that somewhere in the middle, that balance.
Yeah. And we're the mavericks. So coming back to soulmates, doesn't make a great partnership, to be with an 8 if they're a maverick. By definition, that means go alone. And we're not here to go it alone. We're here to go in partnership. And so if you're an 8, making room for other, making room for your spouse, giving up control on those plans and allowing them to take over, even if they're not perfect, that's what it takes to be in relationship. And if you're in relationship with an 8, just knowing that they're scared. They're scared little boys and girls who are just puffing up to overcompensate because they have a very delicate heart. And I think it's so important if your soulmate is an 8 to see them as a delicate little boy and girl, even if they're walled off behind armor.
Well, and as a partner, to give them permission to not always be the most powerful person in the room.
Right.
They don't always have to take charge and make the plans and make it happen.
Absolutely.
Give them the gift of saying, like, let's do this together.
We're taking over for them.
Yes.
You sit down, shut
Exactly.
up, and,
Right.
Get in the passenger seat, which ain't so easy if you're an 8. And so those are pretty much, I think, some 9 fundamental ways to navigate Valentine's Day, but any day, every day, as a soulmate, with your soulmate, and remembering all kinds of soulmates. These are just 9 fundamental patterns as we all do our work of growing up and growing in this curriculum called life.
Right. And in the balance, not only through our intellect and our heads, but through our hearts.
So what's our sign off?
We are wishing you brightest blessings and all love on this Valentine's Day, but every day.
And check out 9 Lives. You will get more of this if this is interesting to you. 9 Lives, and you also get your Enneagram assessment inside of there. Until the next time, namaste.